Two major issues have come to define Donald Trump's presidency in recent weeks. The first one is the alarming deterioration of his mental sharpness and physical condition. It's like it's become impossible to ignore. At one point, his behavior was so shockingly incoherent that people genuinely, they were thinking whether he's still alive. Now, the second issue is deeply intertwined with the first. It's Trump's relentless effort to silence dissent. He's aggressively targeting anyone brave enough to speak the truth about his obvious decline or to challenge his crumbling grip on reality. Unfortunately for Trump, these two threats have now disastrously intersected. He has been caught red-handed trying to conceal what appears to be a full-blown public breakdown and attempt to mislead the public about just how far gone he really is up there. We'll dig into this disturbing cover-up and explore what it means for the growing list of scandals surrounding his health. We're going to dig into everything, what they're trying to hide from us, guys. But before we do, please do drop a like and subscribe if you're part of the growing wave that refuses to stay silent. Every click helps this truth reach the people who really want to hear it. Now, before we unpack the latest cover-up, let's start with someone who had the courage to publicly call out Trump's dangerous mental collapse following his rambling, disjointed speech at Quantico. None other than Lawrence O'Donnell, who Trump didn't hold back in his he didn't hold back in Trump's takedown about his alarming condition.
And I guess maybe we should accept Donald Trump's judgment about that one thing, that the madman orange makeup he slathers on himself makes him look better. Maybe it does. We don't know. Maybe the actual sight of the actual color of his 79-year-old skin is much worse than the orange clown confection that he chooses, but we don't know. Or maybe the orange junk on his face is yet another proof that the man has no capacity to make a judgment about anything, including the way he looks, never mind nuclear weapons. What was he thinking backstage when his Secretary of Defense, who had to promise to stop drinking to get confirmed by the Senate, insulted all of the commanding officers in the room with this kind of idiocy?
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
Okay, Pete, how about fat presidents? How about a president who has been fat every day of his political career? Is that a bad look? All of those generals can button their uniform jackets. All of those admirals can, every one of them. So there's the Secretary of Defense, who may or may not be managing his reported drinking problem, telling all of those commanding officers that they better never look as bad as Donald Trump, who can't even button his suit coat jacket. There was some suspense in the room today when Donald Trump was giving his speech. There was no suspense about would he cross the line that you never cross with the military as president and get political. Everyone knew he was going to do that. Everyone knew that he doesn't know there's a line. Everyone knew he was going to foolishly waste the admirals and generals' time telling them about how many swing states he won. And of course he did. The suspense in the room was whether the very, very tired, almost sleepy 79-year-old man at the microphone was going to make it through that 1 hour and 11-minute speech. And there were times in the middle of a sentence that it would seem like he just might drop right there, might not even finish that sentence. And what he seemed to be showing to the generals and the world is that he might not have the physical strength to make it through the 3 years, 3 months, and 20 days left of his presidency. Is that what has given J.D. Vance such a spring in his step lately? Is that why the vice president looks so happy these days? Donald Trump has never looked physically weaker or wearier than he did today. Weaker in every sense of that word, physically, mentally. Because Donald Trump is uneducable. He still doesn't understand why he walked into a room of military commanders today and faced silence.
It's blatantly obvious to anyone paying attention that Donald Trump is, he's in no condition physically or mentally or morally to lead. That's what made it especially laughable to hear Pete Hegseth ranting about the so-called fat generals and military leaders supposedly lacking the physical stature to command respect. Now, the irony is, it's beyond absurd, to be honest. Trump himself is a walking disaster. He looks like a bloated mess of artificial tan and bad decisions. His face practically melting under the layers of the orange foundation in a way that's, it's just abhorrent, isn't it? His disheveled hair resembles something scavenged from wildlife reserve, and he speaks like he's perpetually confused or halfway through a slurred, barely coherent triad. Now this guy's talking about other people being embarrassing. Come on, guys. Let's not kid ourselves. Trump is a visual and verbal catastrophe. And Pete Hegseth, now, he's hardly in a position to lecture anyone either, parading around the, loop-sided sideburns and cartoonish shoots like a Fox News cosplay experiment gone wrong. Maybe focus less on optics and more on substance, something, sorely missing in the Trump era. Because while they're busy obsessing over appearance, the real issue is that Trump himself is crumbling from the inside out. And now, in typical fashion, he's been caught trying to cover up that very decline, hoping that the public won't notice what's painfully obvious, that he's utterly unfit and he's spiraling. Google accused of blocking searches about Trump 79 and dementia. Google has been accused of hiding AI search results when users seek information about whether 79-year-old Donald Trump has dementia. Typing the prompt, "Does Trump show signs of dementia?" into Google search bar did bring up a list of websites, along with the message, "An AI overview is not available for this search," The Verge reported. The AI overview notice is no longer displayed at the top of the search results. When switched to AI mode, Google does not provide a generated summary of information. Instead, it displays the same top web page results for the query. There's also no AI summary if you search for whether Trump shows signs of Alzheimer's. By contrast, Google does provide an AI summary about 82-year-old Joe Biden, who has also faced questions about his mental acuity during his time in office. Assessing whether Joe Biden shows signs of dementia is a complex question with various perspectives and differing conclusions, Google's AI mode states. It also lists examples of why Biden may be experiencing cognitive decline or apparent signs of dementia. When you type, "Does Biden show signs of Alzheimer's?" into AI mode, the responses also says the answer is a complex question with no definitive answer, and that remains elusive without a formal medical diagnosis. The AI summary presents both sides of the debate, noting that Special Counsel Robert Hur's report on Biden's handling of classified documents described the former president as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The Verge suggested Google might be worried about the president's response to questions about his alleged mental decline. YouTube, which Google owns, also agreed this week to pay $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit brought by Trump after his account was suspended in the wake of the January 6th attack on the Capitol in 2021. Let's start with the obvious. When there's people going to learn about surrendering to a bully, it only makes them more dangerous. Giving in to Trump, setting lawsuits off for fear instead of principle, it doesn't neutralize him, it emboldens him. It's the classic mistake: hand over your lunch money and the bully just shows up tomorrow expecting more. If he back down, only reinforces his toxic pattern, and it's especially frustrating when you consider the bigger picture. Donald Trump is not some unstoppable force. His visibly deteriorating figure, clinging onto the illusion of power whilst he cracks in his physical and mental state, widening by the day. Even more disturbing is this apparent refusal by major platforms like Google, included to surface accurate critical information about Trump's decline. If you search for it, you think he's thriving. That's why it's more crucial than ever to have these conversations out loud and unfiltered, because corporate media and tech platforms are doing everything they can to keep the public from seeing what's really going on. Now, Trump is faltering. He's a desperate man who, is want to be a strong man while frantically working to silence anyone who exposes his weakness. His constant attacks on free speech on about protecting the truth, they're a last-ditch effort to hide just how far he really is gone up there. Fortunately, people like Jasmine Crockett are calling it out exactly as it should be, and it's not a moment too soon.
This particular president has decided that he wants to shake down people as it relates to the First Amendment, because he has filed not one lawsuit, not two lawsuits, but he has filed numerous lawsuits. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. He filed one against the Wall Street Journal, against CBS, against ABC, against the Des Moines Register. He is doing all of this because he wants to quash any speech that is not appreciative or lauding him, which is pretty much anything that's factual. So let's talk a few facts about these January 6th felons that should still be incarcerated because they went through the process, but because they were doing things on his behalf, of course, he wanted to let them go. So they released more than 1,000 people who participated in the insurrection on this government, many of whom had previous criminal records, like Mr. Theodore Mendenforth, who was convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, or Mr. Peter Schwartz, who had 38 prior convictions, including one where he beat his wife by repeatedly punching and biting her. Trump also pardoned Mr. David Daniel, who was convicted of production and possession of child pornography. Trump also pardoned Mr. Daniel Ball, who, quote, threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot. He also had a record for, quote, domestic violence by strangulation. I'm not done. Trump also pardoned Mr. Andrew Taki, who sent nudes to an undercover law enforcement officer who was posing as a 15-year-old girl. Mr. Casey Hopkins also received a pardon from Trump, and Mr. Hopkins was convicted of forcible rape. According to court records, he, quote, had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth as he humiliated her. These are the people that he decided to release in the streets of D.C. So if anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked, as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted, but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country, and it is a shame that we are dealing with it now, and now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.
Okay.
Donald Trump's assault on free speech won't stop until people find the courage to stop enabling him. Every time major news outlets, corporations, or institutions cave in to his threats, whether out of fear, profit, or just cowardice, they're feeding that monster. They're telling him it's okay to weaponize his influence to silence critics and crush dissent. And so he does it again and again. Trump's behavior hasn't just gone unchecked. It's been practically invited by those too timid or too complicit to push back. His entire political playbook is built on intimidation and abuse of power. And the refusal to confront that head-on has only made it worse. As Representative Alexandria Cortez Riley points out, we can't afford to keep turning a blind eye. The stakes are way too high and the damage is already being done.
They are weaker than they look. And it is important that we remember that, because what they rely on is the impression of power, the perception of inevitability, in us giving up in advance to say, oh, what's going to happen if I stand up, etc. Nothing's going to happen. They rely on that perception of inevitability and power so that people comply in advance and acquiesce in advance and give up in advance. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is at record levels of unpopularity in his tenure. The Republican House is at record levels of unpopularity. They are underwater across the board, and they know it. And that is causing them to double down in public, but it is backfiring. That is why, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's all of this, they want us to blink first. And we have too much to save.
What we're witnessing here from Donald Trump isn't leadership, it's intimidation. It's just his authority. He wants to rule by fear because he knows his actual power is slipping. He wants the public to see him as some unstoppable power, as some inevitable force we just have to accept. But that's a lie. Trump can be challenged, he can be defeated, and he's already been losing again and again in the court and in the court of public opinion, which matters. The key is simple. We don't back down, we confront him and we bring the pressure to him. Backing off, staying quiet, or pretending he'll just go away is exactly what he wants. That's how authoritarians tighten their grip, through fear, basically. But if we stay loud, if we keep organizing, exposing and resisting, you can actually keep chipping away at him. That the illusion he's built around himself, and we can smash. As always, guys, smash that like button. Please do drop a like on the video if you made it all the way to the end. Please leave a blue heart in the comments to show that you're standing strong and refusing to be silenced. Keep fighting, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next one.